Alec Baldwin had his charges dropped.
Yeah.
And I know you've probably worked with guns a lot on set for a very long time. How long have you been, would you say you've had experience with guns on set? Decades?
30 years.
30 years.
Yeah,
You had a
30
great
years.
episode in Burn Notice where Jeffrey Donovan gets your gun inside a nightclub. And do you remember that
Burn
one?
Notice.
I remember being in the nightclub, but I don't remember specifically what
Yeah,
happened.
I love that episode. That was one of the first times I'd seen one of your roles was that show. I love that show.
Yeah, he's
How many
a
episodes?
good actor, man.
How many episodes of Burn Notice were you in?
He was
Just one.
Just one.
Yeah.
Oh, it's one of my favorite shows ever.
Yeah.
But so Alec Baldwin is on set. He has a gun. I guess he's dry firing it or something like that, and then a live round was placed in it. Kills this woman. I'm curious your thoughts before we get into like this story and the argument on what happened.
I think everybody along the chain of custody of a firearm is responsible for it. I could see how somebody who's been in the business a long time might trust the armorer and the prop person to give him a gun that's not hot, a cold weapon, especially if they said that. But you have the gun and you're pointing it at somebody, your responsibility.
Oh, we agree.
Okay, so I mean, everybody knows that when you have a weapon like that's a revolver where you can actually see the rounds inside, you got to crack that cylinder open and check each round. And the way you check each round to make sure it's a dummy round is you shake it, and if it rattles, it is a dummy round. Or you look where the firing pin depressed in the back of the shell, and if it's depressed, then that means it won't fire as well. And then you clear that with everybody you're going to be pointing the weapon at. Then you can load it back up if they want to see what the rounds look like inside. That's fine, but you have your finger off the trigger and you never cock it.
Yep.
I mean, that's
And
what
then he did all of the opposite.
I mean, when you watch prop firearms fired, the slide never moves.
Well, I mean, you mean one that fires blanks?
Yes.
Yeah, the slide will move and it'll eject a shell. That's why they have those types of guns, but it's firing a blank. And
And they're non-guns too, right? They make
have
non-guns.
they make non-guns, which are like
a close shot. For
right.
shots
And you'll see the slide will rack on a non-gun. Just nothing will be ejected out of the port. They have to do that probably in post. And they have airsoft guns, which they use now, which will have the same mechanics as a regular gun, but it doesn't shoot anything.
We've got the slide goes back and everything. You rack it and magazine and all that.
I'm actually a constant adder to to IMDb. It's one of my favorite things to do is to add to the trivia section of IMDb. And there's an episode of Person of Interest where Jim Caviezel just basically removes the magazine from a gun, and it's very clearly an airsoft gun. Yoink.
So I'm glad to hear that we agree. I think, but do you think Alec Baldwin should have been criminally charged?
Yes, but maybe not for, what was it, second-degree manslaughter?
Yeah, manslaughter.
Yeah, I mean, something lesser, perhaps, but he was criminally responsible. I think in addition to that, I'm not sure if this is true, so forgive me if I'm saying something not factual. He was a producer on the show.
He was.
Yep.
Okay, so that's a truth. That makes him even more responsible.
I think
for the hiring also of the people who handled the firearms poorly. So
I think it's his role as a producer that makes him even more just as culpable, if not more.
I think he should have been charged with murder. Murder. First degree.
Yeah, they wouldn't. No, first degree, no. He'd
But
never get
if
it.
you know the details of the story, I think you might disagree. So the context of the story as to why I think there's potentially a grand jury indictment for first degree murder is that Alec Baldwin was feuding with the staff. He was not friends with this woman. In fact, in an interview, he explained that she was antagonizing him by constantly giving him instruction. And he was saying things like, she is not the director. She cannot say these things to me. And she's making me blah, blah, blah. Do the scene over again. And she's just a cinematographer. Very angry. So here you have a story about a producer on set where the budget's low. There are safety issues. The staff members are threatening to walk off, screw up the production. He explained that he doesn't like being away from home and that these actions are causing him distress. This woman is then, as he describes, being antagonistic and making him do things she is not entitled to do. They then had a meeting for some reason to discuss issues on set. Alec Baldwin, there's clear circumstantial evidence of some kind of conflict between him and this woman, then goes and does a scene where he shoots and kills her. He claims his finger wasn't on the trigger. Camera footage shows that his finger actually was on the trigger. Questions arise as to how the live ammunition got in the gun. Surprise, surprise, Alec Baldwin on his person had 2 live rounds found after the shooting. I think these facts warrant an investigation at the very least into intentional killing of this woman. And the fact that all the charges were dropped is, I shouldn't say shocking, but wrong.
I definitely think that dropping all the charges is wrong. I think he should be held responsible in some way, even if maybe the family of the cinematographer will take him to civil court. And so this is much lower standard of evidence there, a standard of proof, so they might be able to get something out of him for that. But connecting the dots in this sense doesn't,
Motive,
make sense to me.
Motive, opportunity, and possession of live rounds.
He may be a dick, and he may have cocked the thing and, imagined in his head, you fucking bitch.
He had the bullets on him. He had the bullets. So how did...
I don't know what any of that means or if it's related at all.
How did live bullets get on a movie set?
Well, they were shooting him off set.
Well,
too,
I did a Western.
I
did a Western called The Cherokee Kid, and we had armorers on the set, and we fired live rounds to practice shooting live rounds. They wanted us to get the feel of what it felt like to shoot that kind of weapon and to do it proficiently. If you're a guy in a Western, you've been with a firearm that even if you're around firearms, you're not used to because it's an old Colt, with it has a whole
single
different
action.
feel. Yeah, single action.
The cylinder doesn't even come out. You flip over a little tab and you spin it manually to load the bullets.
Yeah, and then you pop the bullets in one at a time. Well, it's it's a weapon you have to familiarize yourself with, but that puts extra stress on the armor and the prop person. Usually when a weapon is on the set, they call a meeting. This has happened since Brandon Lee, right? Yep. They call a meeting. Everybody come here. They make everybody sit down, even if it's just a rehearsal. We have a cold weapon on the set, and they make sure, the armor makes sure it's open. Now, even when I have a modern weapon, even if it's an airsoft, I lock the slide back if I have to point it at somebody. Yep. I don't have my finger on the trigger, and I lock the slide back. Sorry, I lock the slide back. Additionally, that's just me because I'm a gun owner and I know how to, work around guns. He's a New York guy. He's a New York lefty, from Tisch. What does he know about guns? Probably not much.
I think we can look at it a few different ways. There's, I believe, motive. There is opportunity. And the question of how the live rounds got into the gun was a big question. And so that's why people were blaming the other people on set, the armor perhaps. They're saying she must have loaded the live rounds. But they found 2 live rounds on Baldwin's person, which perhaps...
He could have had them in his pocket when they were test firing the weapons before.
But he put it it was in his gun belt. So I look at it like... Certainly, perhaps the most reasonable position is some kind of involuntary manslaughter or negligence charge or something. But it seems to me particularly conspiratorial to argue all of these Final Destination type things happened, which culminated in Alec Baldwin accidentally shooting this woman versus a woman he was mad at, he shot.
Yeah,
and he had the bullets and he had the gun.
I don't know, but I would be interested in knowing what would happen to Alec if he were a Republican.
Yeah, right. You know that
He'd be in prison.
They did an episode of a show called iZombie where they're on the set of a zombie TV show.
Is that guy a libertarian who does that?
The Rob Thomas.
Rob Thomas did.
Well,
he was from Supernatural, wasn't he?
Yes.
Rob Thomas.
So
he's not
Matchbox 21.
He's okay. So in this episode, a person gets shot on the set of a TV show about zombies, and they find out that it's because the armorer was mad at the one guy. And
when was this episode?
It was like 2018. Rose McIver and Malcolm Goodwin. Yeah, it was like after that happened, I was like, whoa.
Maybe Alec Baldwin and his buddy watched it and said, "This is how we do it."
Wow.
But also just think about that. If it's true, if these charges being dropped, congratulations. That's how you murder somebody now.
Well, I think if you're on the left, you could probably get away with it.
Yeah.
It's funny. Trump said, famously, he can go on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody.
Yeah.
But the reality is more like Hillary Clinton would get away with it.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton could. He could. Or at least he might be able to, wheedle his way out of it somehow, but they would certainly not make it easy.
They're going to put him in jail for filing his legal paperwork wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they will.
There was Hillary Clinton got involved in the DeSantis thing and posted a memes like, I'm on Team Disney. And it's like a picture of her and Bill with Mickey. And somebody's like, and then Mickey was found with 2 shots to the back of the head 2 days later.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say I'm surprised about the Alec Baldwin thing, but I'm surprised that the response I got from talking about it from so many people who worked in film was that I was wrong. I don't know what I'm talking about, and that they did everything right. And there's a disconnect between me as a gun owner and what I know you must do at all times with guns, and this idea among these actors that they have special privileges that exempt them from gun safety because they're on a movie set.